When the markets falter, when the numbers slide, Daedalus is there, right by your side. Markets decide, we decide.
You're listening to GhostLine. Same number, same hour. I'm Julian Cross. Evan says the phones are already restless tonight, which means either you're bored or something's working its way loose. Either way, we're here. We got a caller lined up. No preamble, no build-up, just a voice. Go ahead. You're on GhostLine.
Thanks for taking my call. You don't notice it when it starts. That's the important part. People think disappearance is loud, headlines, sirens, violence. But what actually happens is quieter. Someone stops being invited, stops being quoted, stops being accounted for. Not dead, not gone, just unpriced.
Unpriced? That's an interesting word to choose.
Because that's what it is. There's a system that measures our attention the way markets use to measure gold. It doesn't predict outcomes, it reallocates interest. Once your number drops far enough, other systems respond automatically. Employers, platforms, even people who don't know why they're pulling away. No one decides to abandon you. They're simply told silently that you're not worth the investment anymore.
And you're saying this happens by accident?
No, I'm saying it happens without intention. That's the trick. The system doesn't hate you. It doesn't punish you. It just stops noticing you. And once that happens, other things start noticing instead.
You're being very careful not to say what those other things are.
Because they don't matter. The moment matters. The moment you realize someone has crossed a line you can't see, and no one remembers drawing. Once you see a pattern, you start noticing who's missing.
And how did you see it?
By standing too close to it. That's all I'll say.
Fair enough.
Thank you for your call.
Tonight, we're looking at something unusual. Something that reaches back thousands of years into the land of Sumer and beyond. We have a guest with us who's been studying some ancient findings that might stretch your imagination. Dr. Haddad, welcome to the show. Tell us what you've discovered.
Thank you, Julian. It's fascinating. Recently, a team of archaeologists painstakingly cleaned and stabilized a series of clay tablets recovered from southern Mesopotamia. Artifacts so old their fingerprints may predate recorded memory itself. Dating back over 4,500 years, what we found was a legend that appears repeatedly in one town specifically. And it's all about what they called the handbag of the bearer.
The handbag? I have to admit, that's unexpected.
Yes, and it's consistent. Across the tablets, the imagery shows figures, priests, rulers, always holding a small hand-sized bag, not on their head, not strapped across their back, always in the hand. And the tablet described what was inside, knowledge. The exact nature isn't fully detailed, but it suggested that the bag contained fragments of reality, symbols, small artifacts, tiny tokens, things that were almost ontologically important. They represented boundaries, rules.
Rules? Interesting.
Exactly. And here's the most intriguing part. The tablets indicate that when someone held the bag, they were expected to comply with these rules, though they were never told what they were. Compliance was mandatory, but the knowledge didn't survive the act. You could obey, but you could not recall the rules afterwards, only that you had to follow them.
So they had to act, but couldn't remember why. That's a little unsettling.
It is. And some tablets hint at a ritual that pushed the bearer into an altered state of perception, not unlike being observed. The bearer would see beyond, gain insight into certain forbidden aspects of existence. But again, the rules, they couldn't hold them in memory. It was transmitted culturally as a shared experience. almost like a societal safeguard.
So the handbag itself was a conduit for seeing behind reality? Is that correct? But safely. Or at least safely for the society.
Precisely. The objects, the symbols inside the bag, the act of holding it all forced the bear into this liminal space. The legend implies that the bear was watched, evaluated, and never harmed, just reminded of their limits.
That's remarkable. And this persisted for centuries.
Yes, Julian. The town revered it for generations. And some of the myths, some fragments, survive to this day, though we're only just now deciphering them. We still haven't fully interpreted all of the tablets. There could be layers of rules or guidance that we still yet to grasp.
It's eerie, isn't it, to think that something as simple as a handbag could contain that kind of knowledge, that kind of responsibility.
And it's not just the bag itself, Julian. It's the act, the ritual, the rules that cannot be remembered, only obeyed. The legend makes it clear. The rules are not evil. They are boundaries enforced indirectly. And in some ways, that mirrors what we see in the world even today. People constrained by unseen rules, following them instinctively.
Fascinating. And for our listeners, imagine holding a small bag, knowing it is important, following a set of rules you cannot recall. It's a haunting kind of legacy. Dr. Haddad, thank you for sharing that with us.
My pleasure, Julian. I'll be sending over images of the tablet, some of the reproductions for anyone curious.
Excellent. And to our listeners, keep your eyes open. History sometimes carries forward echoes that are more present than we think. That's GhostLine for tonight. We have something special for you. A story pulled from the sands of time, quite literally. Our caller tonight has been studying recent deciphered tablets from Sumer, one of the earliest civilizations in human history. There's a legend that they want to share. Caller, you're on the line.
Thanks, Julian. Yeah, I've been going through some recently recovered clay tablets. They were painstakingly organized, cleaned, and translated over the past 5 years. And there's one legend that's been preserved in this particular town in Sumer. It's possibly the oldest known legend about the so-called handbag of the gods.
The handbag of the gods. Interesting. All right.
It sounds strange, but here's what the tablets say. In this legend, the handbag is never carried on the shoulder, never slung across the back. It's always held in the hand. Always. And what's inside isn't coins or tools, at least not in a literal sense. The tablet describes it as containing that which cannot be spoken, and that which is not to be remembered.
Huh. So it's symbolic. But the tablets are clear about what that means?
Not exactly. That's the eerie part. Those who carried it, according to the legend, were bound by rules they could never recall. They had to obey them fully, and yet the act of carrying it erased the knowledge of the rules themselves. The legend emphasizes that compliance was universal. You had no choice. The memory of the rules never really survived the act.
That's unsettling. So everyone knew to obey, but no one could articulate what they had to obey.
Exactly. It was transmitted through ritual. The tablets hint at a ceremonial process, possibly involving the sacred herb that has since been lost. The ritual itself persists even today, or at least some traces of it. And the legend implies that carrying the handbag allowed glimpses of another perception, something the human mind was never meant to fully retain.
So the ritual gave them a glimpse, just a glimpse, of something beyond normal perception?
Yes, Julian, yeah. The legend stresses that even brief contact changes a person. They can see patterns in the world no one else can see, perceive connections that are normally invisible, and yet they can't explain it. The knowledge is fleeting and mostly forgotten once the ritual ends.
That is remarkable. And you're saying this is from real Sumerian tablets, carefully translated?
Correct. Clay tablets, meticulously preserved, and while some of the translations may be interpretive, the essence is clear. The handbag, the rules, the ritual, and the fleeting perception beyond normal human senses.
That is fascinating. And it really makes you wonder, How many other fragments of perception have we lost over the millennia, locked away in rituals or myths like this?
Exactly. And what's even more compelling is that this isn't isolated. There are hints that similar myths appear somewhere in the ancient world, though the Sumer legend is the oldest we've found.
That is incredible. Listeners, take note. The handbag of the gods, the rules that cannot be remembered, and the perception just beyond our reach. Truly eerie stuff. Caller, thank you for bringing this to us tonight.
Thank you, Julian. Keep exploring. It's just the beginning.
Well, Evan says that call ended normally. No drop, no interference, just a voice deciding it had enough to say. You hear stories like that and you want to file them under myth, modern folklore, tech paranoia with better vocabulary. But here's the thing. There are old accounts, anthropological ones, where the mechanism disappears, but the ritual stays. South America, deep interior, ceremonies repeat long after the original conditions are gone. Same chant, same preparation, same warnings. People assume the knowledge was forbidden. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think speaking damaged it. I think the experience was so complete that only fragments survived the return. Some people went through the ritual once. Others had to do it several times. Most never reached the threshold. And the ones who didn't come back enlightened. They came back constrained, changed how they looked at reflections, not just mirrors, water, glass, polished metal, anything that suggested another side. Once we were allowed to see from the other side, we were only allowed to remember that we had agreed not to, not because we were punished, because part of reaching it was agreeing to never reach for it again. You can get there in this life, but you don't get to go twice. Alright, I'm being told you have another caller. This wasn't scheduled. Go ahead, other caller.
You didn't open the line.
No, we didn't.
It opened itself. Same hour, same frequency. You're not the first to sit where you're sitting. You're just the one still talking.
You sound very sure of that.
You're already being careful. That's how it starts.
Evan, are you seeing anything on your end?
It's not coming through your show. Your show is just the carrier.
That isn't us.
No, it never is. Same hour, same frequency.
We'll take another caller, too. You know, there's a temptation after a call like that to label it. To say this is a theory, or this is a myth, or this is what people come up with when systems get too big to see it all at once. And sure, you can do that. There's a quieter pattern that keeps showing up long before algorithms, long before markets learned how to breathe. Anthropologists talk about it in footnotes. Rituals that outlive their purpose, ceremonies, repeated precisely, even when no one remembers what they were meant to unlock. South America, deep interior, small groups, isolated for a long time, then slowly, not discovered, just noticed. They prepared the same way every time. Vast silence, careful ordering of steps. Not everyone was expected to succeed. Some people went through it at once. Others came back and tried again. 7 times, 8, 9. Most never crossed whatever threshold the ritual was pointing at. And the ones who did weren't revered. They weren't elevated. They were changed. They stopped lingering in reflections, mirrors, water, glass, anything that suggested depth, where there shouldn't be any. It wasn't fear, it was avoidance. Like you avoid a question you already knew the answer to. For a long time, people assumed the knowledge was forbidden, that it was withheld on purpose. I don't think that's right. I think the knowledge didn't survive the return. Not erased, not punished, just too complete to be carried back intact. What survived wasn't the rule itself, it was the agreement. Once we were allowed to see from the other side, we were only allowed to remember that we agreed not to. Not because we were stopped, because part of reaching it meant accepting that you don't reach for it again. You can get there in this life, but you don't get to go twice. Well, maybe you do. All right, we're going to take another call. GhostLine, you're on.
I shouldn't be calling.
Most people who say that already have.
No, I mean, I really shouldn't be calling. There are consequences for talking about this.
For you?
For anyone.
Then why take the risk?
Because I think people are getting too close again.
Too close to what?
The rules.
Which rules?
The ones you don't remember agreeing to.
Ah, I see. You're not the first person to mention that tonight.
I know. That's the problem.
Go on.
There's a boundary. It's not a place, at least not exactly. More like a limit to understanding. And every so often, humans wander too close to it. Usually by accident. Sometimes on purpose.
And that's bad.
It's dangerous.
For us.
For everything. You don't tug on loose threads in the universe, not unless you're ready for the whole thing to start unraveling.
That almost sounds like a threat.
It's a warning.
From whom?
From someone who sees what happens when people don't stop.
And what happens?
Reality starts pushing back. Not dramatically, not like movies, but subtly. Patterns break, coincidences stack. People vanish from probability instead of existence.
That's a phrase?
It should be. Look, I don't expect anyone to believe me. I just need to say it out loud just once before...
Before what?
Before I forget it again. That's the cool part. The forgetting. It's automatic, but it's merciful. It's mandatory.
Mandatory?
You're not allowed to keep this kind of knowledge. That was the deal. That was always the deal.
What deal?
The same one you agreed to. The same one we all agreed to.
I don't remember that.
Of course you don't. That's the point. Stop looking too hard, Julian.
All right, back to the lines. GhostLine, you're on.
I don't have much time. Not because I'm in danger, because my memory's already fading.
Then say it while it's still yours.
I remember one of the rules.
Which rule?
That you're not supposed to remember. I don't know how it happened. I was half asleep. That space between dreams and waking. The liminal hour you talk about. And for a few seconds, everything lined up. My mind slipped through a seam. I remember how reality is governed. I've been there. Not laws, not physics, the rules.
And one of them stayed with you.
Yeah. You're not allowed to remember what existed before attention.
Before attention?
Before awareness, before observation, before being seen. There was something stable before consciousness started collapsing things into a meaning, a structure, a framework. Something ancient that didn't need minds to exist. And when awareness evolved, it broke that stability. So the rules were created.
By who?
I don't know. I don't. Maybe I did. But I'm not allowed to know now. But the rule is, you must forget what existed before attention. or reality becomes unstable around you.
What happens if you don't?
You start noticing errors, not glitches, not hallucinations, corrections. Moments where reality seems to reassert itself around you. Conversations repeating, movement stuttering, people briefly going blank, like the system is rewriting itself to keep you from seeing too much.
And you're seeing that?
Yeah. It's accelerating.
Tell me the part you're afraid to say.
The rule wasn't made to protect us. It was made to protect reality from us. Because if enough people remember, the old structure starts bleeding back in. And it doesn't fit well inside our minds.
All right, so what happens now?
Now the memory keeps trying to delete itself. Every time I say it, it weakens, like a dream dissolving once you describe it. So I'm calling you because I need the rule to exist somewhere outside my head.
Why us?
Because GhostLine sits in the cracks. You broadcast during the hour when rules loosen, when attention drifts, when things start to slip. You're not just a show. You're a leak.
You're fading.
Yeah. I know. If I forget, please remember for me.
We will. All right, we're going to take a short commercial break.
If you want some pep in your step, try
Zip 'em in,
If you want some pep in your step, try
zip 'em in.
When you get up and go, has got up and went, thought to zip right back again.
Snap your fingers, tap your toes, feel that rhythm start to glow.
From your hat down to your grin, you'll feel fine with